Containment Episode 3, Be Angry at the Sun. This episode I really loved, even though just some of the worst stuff happened in it. It was a really exciting episode. I definitely hate Leo, like 100% now, because he put out that video at the end, towards the end of the episode. And in my last review, I mentioned, like, my question was like, what do you guys think kind of sets off kind of the riots and like the mass chaos? I would kind of say it was this episode with Leo and the stuff that he done. Like, even though he put all the other stuff out, like the other videos throughout the episode, where it's like, hey, here's all these other dead people, which kind of shows that the virus was, much more widespread than anyone even knew. So they're going through the city, and it's like, here's dead bodies all over the ground and stuff like that. And I thought that was actually really cool, because not only does it show that the virus is like way wider than they thought, it's way beyond just the couple of people, the dozen people they have at the hospital. It's all over the freaking place. Like, people are insanely sick in there, and it's all over the place. There are a bunch of dead bodies, like in that little video. I want to say they show like maybe 4 or 5, dead bodies. So it's spread, and it's been killing people left and right that, either just haven't been found or they just flat out haven't been cleaned up. But, they're kind of working with that, where Jake is, now in the hospital. And we find out really early on in the episode, actually, that the virus dies a couple hours after the host dies, which kind of explains what happened to the scientist that got like all that blood on. I was like, that person's definitely going to be dead. But turns out the virus actually dies a couple hours later. So that person's actually safe, and they're alive. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they kind of got that answer from it. But we have him kind of burning all the bodies and stuff like that, and he's taking the pictures of their ID and items that they have on them, and he's numbering them, and keep putting their ashes in jars and stuff. And he's having a tough time because Lex is kind of putting him in charge, like, I need someone that I can trust. And so it starts off, and Jake's like, sweet. When they go into, they kind of use the sluice, and he uses the containers, which explains how they, why they ended up doing that on day 13. But he's like, yes, we got guns and bullets and all this stuff. And he's like, all right, so where's the backup? And he's still stuck with the 11 cops, which are now 10 by the end of the episode. But he's stuck with, like, the 11 cops. Most of them didn't really give a crap. They were either, like, he kind of goes through the ranks and everything. It's, like, mostly rookies, a traffic cop, and then I believe it was, like, an actual sergeant or something like that who didn't want to listen to him because he, was just a beat cop. So it was kind of cool watching him go through all this stuff. And when we have, like, that first moment where he's with the cop that shoots the guy at the end of the episode when they're in the grocery store, like, these people go nuts. And it was the first sign of, like, the kind of the true riot that's going to take place in the city, where Teresa's, she's on the phone, and then these people come back because the lady was mad that the price went up, supply and demand and all that. And she comes back, and it's like, all right, here's, I think it was her boyfriend and probably his 2 brothers or something like that. So we got 3 people with guns just coming in, like shotguns and stuff. And everybody, he's like, store's closed, everybody get out, and they're just going to rob the place. And Jake and the other guy have to go in there and stop kind of the first crazy moment, the first of many, I'm sure, that they're going to experience. And I thought that was a really cool moment. And I thought personally, I was like, probably should have taken their guns from him. Like, you probably couldn't do that, but I think in that situation you can, because it's like, I got you guys for expired plates or whatever for now, but, you're on camera and everything like that. So that was just interesting. It was like, man, that was a crazy situation. It was the first of many, I'm sure. And then the cop was super mad. It was like, what if they noticed that the thing was unplugged or stuff like that, which is really weird in general, that I guess they just unplugged it. The mom just didn't want cameras in there or something. I don't know. But I thought it was weird that it was unplugged, even though she had the cameras and stuff. And I don't think they would have noticed that the cord was unplugged, because it was like behind a door. Like, he opened up a door and stuff, and was like, it's unplugged. I'm like, and then he was mad at him, like, what if they noticed that? I'm like, how would they notice that from the other side of the room? But either way, they got out of it. And so we go through the episode, things are getting worse and worse. We have Jenna with her group, and the 2 guys, this episode kind of made me hate both of them as well, because they got, like, super mad and petty. Was like, you guys might be contaminated, I don't want to die. And they were mad, like, they had to sit in there for 48 hours, which does suck, I understand that, but I'm sure they could have, opened the thing back up, and they could have left out. It's not like they were just literally trapped in there forever. I'm sure they had access to other floors if they needed to, like, go to the restroom or whatever. they had access to other stuff, I'm sure. So it was just crazy. Like, they were super mad and stuff, and her friends kind of mad at her because she's and trying to sleep with the guy. I don't know. So they're all kind of mad at her, and then they get super pissed off and they start throwing fruit. And the guy, like, it was funnier to me, the other guy, because the one guy, he was like throwing oranges, or I guess he was throwing tomatoes because it was like just splatting right on the thing. And the other guy just instantly put out a full loaf of bread and was just like breaking it in half and eating. I'm like, man, they're super petty. And it's like he took off his gloves. You know, they're in like a crazy, 48 hours you're dead situation. And he's like, I just took off my gloves and I'm sweating. Like, that's a huge freaking deal. And then they act like it's the craziest thing ever, which doesn't even make sense. Why would he take his gloves off? And I think he mentioned it was like because he was hot or something. But it's like, that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I don't want to die. Like, I don't care what you think. You got food. I'm still starving. How about that? So it's like, I'm starving, but at least I'll live. But we'll see. And then I'm sure they'll probably do it in the next episode if they start showing symptoms or not. And if they do, I don't really know how they get out of there, because that seems like the only way that they can get in and out, unless they like break the glass to get past the sluice and keep them trapped in there. But we'll have to see. Wait until the next episode for that one. But I really love this one for how crazy it got. And like Leo, and also by the end, his friends are actually sick. And like, it's very obvious, like she sneezes or coughs or whatever. And then it's not as super happy anymore. And she kind of just doesn't say anything after that. And it's like, okay, they're both dying then. And which makes sense because they've been going around all over the place. So they end up getting sick and they're going to probably die. If not in the next episode, they'll at least be showing the symptoms, depending on if they'll do like one day at a time. Because eventually, I think there are only 7 episodes total, and if it goes to day 13, it's basically, if they want to, they're gonna have to start doing like more than 2 days at once. Because I think so far it's just been 1 day at a time. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I enjoyed it. I thought this was a really good episode. It got really crazy at the end, where with Leo, he actually tells people, which was a really stupid idea, and that's why I think this is, his actions are what really set off kind of the true riots, or at least they kind of started. I mean, that would happen without him, but it certainly didn't help. And he puts that out there, and I'm like, that's just a stupid idea. That was a stupid idea because people are stupid. It's like, I'm not sick, and I understand, you think you're not sick because people don't know for, the 48-hour thing. And so it's like, I'm not sick, I can't possibly be sick, I need to get out because there's no reason for me to be here. People are stupid like that, and that will always be the case. There's always going to be somebody, and normally there's always going to be a bunch of somebodies trying to escape because they just assume they know exactly what's right. Like, they have no idea. They could have gotten sick on the way to that because there's so many people. One of them could be sick, and then poof, you got like 24 people infected that are trying to take off. And so we have that first guy who was also sweating. I mean, that's how they show the signs where it's like, oh, you're sweating because it goes through the fluids. And that could be the first sign because it's like a flu. So you're like overexerting yourself basically. So he could have been sick. He may not have been sick. It's Atlanta. It's freaking hot all the time. Even though everybody's wearing jackets, so I guess it's a little bit colder. And it's probably not actually Atlanta anyway. But I don't know, they had to shoot him anyway, because they were going to have to do it, but then, the other guy shot him, and it's like, well, my family's out there, so that's just how it had to be. And he felt bad that, of course, he was the one that did it, so of course you'd feel bad, but it would have happened no matter what. Like, they would have shot that guy up if he tried to jump over that fence, but it just happened to be the cop, and he decides, I'm done. Like, I don't want to just shoot people, that kind of just want to live, but it was kind of a crappy situation. And then, of course, they cut off all the internet in the area. They, like, completely shut off everything. Only the doctor's going to have a direct line for a phone line as well as internet access within the next episode. But other than that, everybody's now cut off. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, they'll still have TV. I would assume they aren't going to, like, shut down all the radio towers around them and, antennas and everything. But no internet within the cordon. Everybody's shut down. There's no access to all these videos and stuff like that. They can't get videos outside of the cordon, so Leo can't be posting other really crazy stuff and showing access points and stuff for people to escape the cordon and just crazy stuff like that. So it made sense. Once again, they're just moving super fast. It's like, we shut it down, add cargo containers. Now we need to shut down the internet because he's putting out all this extra information and stuff. And who knows what that's going to really lead to. I'm sure it'll lead to something really bad, because of course word of mouth is going to spread, internet or not, that there was someone who was shot. And like I said, they'll have the news, so anyone who's still watching TV is probably going to have that on the news if they aren't there. Like Brady and his wife, most likely his wife, because she's just at home, she'd probably get that information from TV more than just word of mouth and stuff like that. So things are a little different. It definitely it makes me curious what they're gonna do with Teresa's character now, because that was like her whole thing, is that she was kind of just cooped up, at the grocery store, but she was always talking with her boyfriend. That was basically like her thing. It was like her life inside the grocery store and stuff happening around her, and her just kind of being comforted by her boyfriend, and that's gone now. So it makes me curious what they're gonna do with her character, because for these first 3 episodes, that was kind of it for her character. It was just she's trapped on the inside, and that's the one person that really helps her kind of stay sane. So it makes me wonder where they're going to take things now with her character. But definitely looking forward to the next one, of course. Really want to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And this is kind of a crazy question, and it'd probably be harder to choose whether or not you actually report stuff like Leo does in this episode. But I would love to know what decision you would make if you would have shown that video about that escape ladder, or would you have kept it secret? Like, I know that was like their whole thing, like, oh, we want to tell people the truth. And I had a great moment in this episode with Lex and Leo where Leo asked, like, if someone tries to get over the thing, will you shoot them? And Lex is like, that's the difference between me and you, is that you never have to answer that question. Like, you're not in that position where you have to choose whether or not someone lives or dies. But Leo putting that video out pushed people into that situation. So I would love to know, if you were in that situation, whether you're inside or outside, would you post that video up to let people know that there's a possible escape route? Like, it would be, him getting followers and all that stuff definitely would get you some points there for sure, but it also leads to somebody dying, which I would assume it would, which is why I would have never posted it, even if that was like my whole thing as a reporter. Reporting like dead bodies and stuff and putting the truth out there, that's one thing. Like, that, I understand people do need to know the truth, but people don't need to know that they can just escape and put the virus out into the rest of the world. Like, people don't need to know that part of the truth. Like, that's like, a useless truth, really. It's a dangerous truth, in all things. Like, the dead bodies, that sucks for the government, but that's not dangerous for people to know. Like, them knowing they could escape the cordon and possibly be infected and infect a bunch of people on the outside, that's dangerous. That's a secret that should definitely be kept. And I personally, I would have kept that secret regardless of being a journalist or not, because I know, like, that's a real life thing. People would do that. Like, people will always look out for themselves first, because it'll just be like, I'm not sick, can't possibly be sick, so I've got to get out of here. So I personally wouldn't do it, but I would love to know whether or not you guys will post that video. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.